Hey guys, it's Jess and I'm back with another video for Maymay Made It. This week I am doing another scene building card. I've been kind of on a scene building kick lately and I've been wanting to get out of my comfort zone and do a little bit more with scene building than I ever have in the past. So here we go. There is going to be a lot of masking, there's going to be a lot of cutting, and a lot of coloring and ink blending. If that's not your thing, maybe this isn't the video for you, but if it is, or if you want to see how this card came together, definitely stick around and let's hang out. So I'm starting off with using the Sea-Lestial stamp set from Maymay Made It. This is a huge stamp set, it's 6x8, and it's got all kinds of things sea related. So it's got this seagull, it's got a compass, sort of like a compass rose with the North Star. It says, I treasure your friendship. It's got like a gem from like the Titanic, you know how like it has like the heart of the ocean? I don't know, super, super cute. If you don't have this stamp set, you're missing out. It's really cool. So I am using some black ink to stamp out my images. I'm using some post-it notes just to cut out a mask for each of my shapes. So I stamp it twice, once on the paper where I want it, and then once on the post-it note so that I can cut it out. And I'm just using my Brutus Monroe fuzzy cutting scissors to do this. Once I've got all of my masks cut out, I go ahead and lay them on top of my stamped area so that I can do some ink blending and some coloring without getting that area changed in color. It protects the area. Now I will say that if you are doing extensive ink blending over top of your masked area, or you're going to be stamping repeatedly, especially with a solid colored image, you're probably going to want to use something other than post-it note tape. Ask me how I know. I learned the hard way that the post-it note tape does get saturated easily with ink and it bleeds through the paper if you're not careful. So just beware. If you're going to be doing a ton of ink blending, like what I did just here is totally fine. But if you're going to be doing something that's like really extensive, lots of ink blending or lots of repeat stamping with a solid color where there's going to be a lot of ink on that paper, just be careful. Okay, so I'm using a ton of Distress Oxides here. I used at the bottom antique linen, frayed burlap, and I believe walnut stain to color the bottom. Everything will be linked below though, so if you have any questions on anything, just check out the description below for all of the supplies. I'm coming in with Fossilized Amber, Spiced Marmalade, then I used Stormy Sky. I am just blending on, okay, I know I said this in my last video, I'm just blending on like a crazy person. This is I'm winging it. Like I have told you guys before, scene building is not really my strong suit. It's not something that I would consider myself to be like an expert at. And so when I start, I kind of honestly have no idea where I'm going. I fly by the seat of my pants and I hope and pray that it turns out and that I didn't waste however many hours it took me to make this card of my life. So far I've been pretty lucky and I've been able to pull it together fairly well, but sometimes I'm not so lucky. But this time it seemed like it turned out okay. So I knew I wanted to have the sun reflected in the water. So that's what I did there. I have this big blob of yellow in the sky. I kind of angled it down, I pulled it down at an angle into what will be the water. I blended on some color. Now, to let you guys know that this is not like a first time I got it, I knew exactly what I was doing sort of thing. Originally, I intended this to be a daytime scene, and because I made the colors look so bizarre and weird, I couldn't really save it. And then I started doing all kinds of other things to try to make up for it, like adding in the pink, and then I don't know, I couldn't get the shape of the sun right. I was really struggling, and so it ended up turning into a nighttime scene when originally I had intended for it to be a daytime scene, but that's okay. Happens to the best of us. And I just sort of changed plans and went with the flow. Like I said, I sort of just fly by the seat of my pants. So I'm using a water brush because this is a distress product. It reacts with water. I'm using a water brush that has just a little bit of clean water inside the barrel to make a line of the horizon. So this gave me a point at which the sky met the sea and gave that transition. I don't know, it helped me at least be able to visualize what in the world was supposed to be going on with my sky a little bit better. Here you can see I'm bringing in a Spectrum Noir marker. I am trying my darndest to make that sun look like a little something. I kind of messed it up with all the blue and all the pink, and I don't know, it was not looking like I wanted it to look. So I'm about to do a whole lot of other stuff here. But in the meantime, I'm just adding some details to the water to make them look hopefully a little more realistic. So I added a little like streakiness to the reflection of the light and also to the water itself to, number one, give like a more textured look to it, but also to make it look like the water was moving, because the water's not going to be like glassy still at the ocean. And then here you can see I was trying to fix the sun a little bit, and then I was like, why is the sun so orange but the reflection is yellow? It doesn't really make sense. And my brain was overthinking me and driving me nuts, and so I tried to do a little bit to change that. What I did here is I put some water down on my mat there, and then I just used a clean ink blending pad to try to like sop up some of the color and make the color a little bit lighter, but that it helped, but it didn't really do what I wanted. So then I go back in later and try to figure out another way to fix it. Coming back in with another Spectrum Noir marker. This one is a true blue marker, and I'm just adding in some waves there. Then I came back in with the blender pen, went right over top of that, and that kind of just muted it just a little bit so it wasn't quite as intense. And then I went in with a white paint pen. This is a Dylusions paint pen, and added just a little bit of white on top of the lines of blue to make it look kind of like frothy water. You guys tell me in the comments if you think this helps or if you liked it better without it. I'm always interested to know what you guys think, or if you think like, man, she just should have stopped right there. So definitely leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think, or what part's your favorite, or what you might have done differently. So another Spectrum Noir marker here. These are alcohol-based markers that I'm using over top of my ink blending, and I am just using that LV2 to draw in some cloud sort of shapes. I thought that it might help break up the sky a little bit and make it look maybe a little less weird. I was really hung up on the sky looking bizarre, and I didn't like the way that the sun looked. So I guess I kind of turned it into a moon, but whatever. So once I was done with that, I did go ahead and use another marker to add in some detail to the sky, darken it up a little bit. I felt like it really needed some difference between the water and the sky. I know that oftentimes I don't know, we say that like this, the water is a reflection of the sky and whatever, but I felt like it needed to be darker. And then it really started turning into a night scene here. So once I had kind of made that moon more of that light pale orange sort of thing, and then the sky got darker, it really turned into more of my night scene. So like I was saying earlier, I felt like the moon was or the sun at the time was too orange, and it needed to be more yellow to match the ink blending that I did earlier on the water. So I'm using some Spectrum Noir markers. Again, these are alcohol markers, just to add like more yellow on top and hopefully change the color a little bit. And I think that this really helped. I think that this made a big difference on the way, like the appearance of the moon, sun, whatever we're calling this. And I think I don't know, I think it really helped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing a lot of coloring. I'm going to be adding in some detail down at the bottom, and I'm going to start coloring in. You can see I removed those masks. I'm going to start coloring in our little critters down at the bottom. So while I do that, I'm actually going to turn on some music and let you guys relax and watch the process. If you don't like the coloring, you can always skip ahead to when we finish assembling the card. But this is kind of the bulk of this card, as it is scene building. So I'm adding those little dots, and I'll go ahead and turn that music on so you guys can watch. right, so that about finishes up our coloring. Hopefully it was exciting. And now we're just going to go ahead and finish off the rest of the card. So I'm using my mini Misty to go ahead and position a sentiment. I decided on the Make a Wish on a Starfish because how cute is that? And we've got our little starfish down at the bottom, so it was perfect. I'm going to go ahead and put that sentiment up in the moon, sun, whatever we're deciding it's called, area up at the top. And using embossing ink from Brutus Monroe, I'm just going to go ahead and stamp that on there, and then I'm going to use the alabaster embossing powder, also from Brutus Monroe, to add on that powder and melt it with my heat tool. I did that off camera, but I just went ahead and melted it. Super simple. I'm using a pen from Nuvo here. This is called the Midas Touch. I want to say it's called an Aqua Shimmer pen. It'll be in the description, don't you worry. But it just added a little bit of gold sparkle. I wish that it showed up better on camera, but in person it is magical. I feel like that totally made the card with that reflection, like the shiny bits on the reflection of the water. It just looks so cool. So now I'm using some Brutus Monroe foam tape to prop up the back of my card so that it gives the whole thing a little bit of dimension. I find that this is a really cool way to add a little more substance to your scene building cards or cards that don't have any layers other than this. I think it gives it a more finished and professional sort of look, and it gives it just a little bit more depth. Like it's not just a flat card like you could have printed out. I don't know, for me it just gives it a little bit extra something. I did go back after the fact and add in a couple of dots in the sky to make the stars, and I added a couple little extra details on the waves just to intensify that little bit of white on top of the rough parts of the water, but that finished off the card. I hope you'll let me know what you thought down in the description below, and that you will join me next time for another video for Maymay Made It. Until then, see you next time.